Hey, I want to give another update. So, the first week of the UN Commission on the Status of Women is complete. I'm going to give a quick overview of the activities that I went to, and then I'll get into a little bit more of the specifics about what happened. So, Monday I attended the North American and European Regional Caucus orientation. So, what that does is gives an overview of basically the structure of the UN and how things work and how to be an advocate within the United Nations. And that's open to both delegates and NGO and civil society participants. And then for the rest of the day, I focused on activities around the global care economy. So the theme this year is economic empowerment of women in the changing world of work. And so it's recognizing all the kinds of work that go unrecognized, all the domestic work. So there was a governmental session on the global care economy that I attended. And then in the evening, I went to a presentation about the inequalities within the care economy that was presented by Oxfam. Tuesday was a giant snowstorm. Everything got shut down. The UN and the entire city of New York was basically on a snow sabbatical. Then Wednesday, I had a Healing the Womb Waters ceremony with Grandmothers Circling the Earth Foundation. And then in the evening, I went to a discussion on the Iroquois' influence on the suffragist movement then and now, which was really good. Thursday, the focus for the governmental meetings inside the UN was the economic empowerment of Indigenous women. And then I attended a panel on UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which has to do with peace, women, and security. And then that evening, I got to go to Harlem for a church supper with folks who had been at Standing Rock. So I got to hear some of those folks speak. There are about, I think, 50 water protectors in New York City right now who have been displaced from the camp. And so they came and spoke about that. And then Friday, I checked out the St. Patrick's Day Parade because I've never been in New York City at this time, so that was interesting to see. And then I attended an event on the open technology, circle process organizing. And then Saturday, I went to an event on compassionate listening, which was another circle facilitation event. That was really good. So let's see. Review back to the beginning of the week. So this is my first time within the UN, so it's my first time being able to see what's actually going on. And if you've ever watched C-SPAN, the speakers all have, where they're from or what their representative name is, and they make a statement. And so on an international level, it's kind of the same thing. It's a giant meeting room full of folks, and there's big screens, and the translations are captured underneath in script. And it's kind of hard to text or, tweet what's going on as it's happening because I'm trying so hard to pay attention to what's being translated that if I look away, I can't process or I'm going to miss something. So it was very interesting. I took a lot of notes on things that different countries are doing and what sort of progress they're making. Not every country spoke at every event, obviously, because that would take forever. So then the panel by Oxfam, I found that really interesting because what they have done is like a monetary analysis of how much money the care economy gives, or like it helps support, but kind of like an unrecognized financial support to all of the country's gross domestic products. And I will put up the statistics on that because that was really interesting. It's billions and billions of dollars that goes unrecognized as contributions, because literally no society can function if somebody's not doing the laundry or watching children or, just everyday stuff. And, a lot of the time that goes unrecognized and isn't valued as work, but it is work. Like taking care of people and taking care of all of our stuff is work, and it's high time that is recognized and valued and cared for, because our societies would not function, our economies would not function without that domestic work. See, the ceremony with the grandmothers, that was really lovely. Yeah, that was really beautiful. It was a huge room of women, and it was just recognizing how women are naturally tied to the earth, and our wombs are a place to hold life, and not fear. And it was just recognizing that and trying to clear out some of that, energetic or emotional baggage that folks might be carrying around. And thinking about how we are connected to the earth. And then the Iroquois' influence on feminism, that was really, really amazing. There was a woman from upstate New York, so the Haudenosaunee territory spans from like the Great Lakes over to Ontario and then like down through New York. I don't know the exact specific borders off the top of my head. I apologize. Anyway, so there was a woman who, until like, I think the 70s, had not left her reservation. And then this woman, woman who taught women's history, who in the 70s was very against the idea that Native American women could have had any influence on the early suffragist movement in the mid-1800s, started doing some digging around and then ended up meeting this woman. And, so this Iroquois woman hadn't left, and she was just surprised at some of the like really sexist behavior that goes on outside of the reservation, because in her culture, women have so much more influence than they necessarily did in American culture. They were recognized as equals, and there was a really beautiful discussion about what leadership is, that leadership is more about responsibility, and that you have to serve your community as opposed to I'm in charge and I have power. It's more subtle influence, like you can get people to do things, but not coercion. It's about compassion and about, it's genuine community care is leadership as opposed to enforcement. So that was a really beautiful discussion, and I will type up more about that later. Let's see. Thursday, economic empowerment of Indigenous women, which is an emerging issue. So hopefully next year that will be the theme, and we can spend 2 weeks focusing on that. So again, it was the governmental panels where everything was translated. The UN has these really cool like little cup things that go around your ear, and so they have translators, and it'll automatically get translated in your ear, which depending on how well you can focus at any given moment, is really nice, because then it kind of frees your hands and you don't necessarily have to rely on those translations on the screen. But that was some more beautiful explanations about what countries are doing to fight inadequacies and discriminations within their own countries, and what folks are doing, like the policies that are being implemented and how well they're working, successes, failures, best practices, that sort of thing. And so a lot of it is a very broad overview of what's going on. And so I took notes on particular items that I found interesting and that I need to go back and look up, and kind of learn a little bit more specifics about. And then, let's see. Oh, UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which is Women, Peace, and Security. That was a very packed panel. Everybody was kind of sitting on top of each other. And that was a presentation mostly focusing on Russian and Ukrainian forces. And there was a really beautiful quote that somebody had that I wrote down. It was this woman said, she relayed this really beautiful story, which tragic story, but the way she told it was really beautiful. And the woman was crying, and therefore pretty much everybody in the room was crying about New Year's Eve one year that they got bombed. So it was the news reports were all describing how lovely this New Year's was, and the family she was with was retelling a story about how they were crawling on the floor trying to survive because everything around them was being blown up. But what she said that was beautiful was, our main job is to prevent children from crying and keep the fear out of their eyes, which I imagine most parents, humans, peacekeepers, whatever you want to call them, that's the most important job that folks are working on. So that was interesting. And then I went that evening to Harlem. I was a bit late. I got lost on the New York train, or got on the wrong train somehow and almost ended up in Queens. Whoops. So the event with the folks from Standing Rock, that was really lovely. Despite all the really atrocious things that have happened out there, from being blasted by water canyons and physically abused by police, and had reputations slandered in the news, and kind of being betrayed by people that they trusted. They seemed very positive and upbeat, and just wanted to share songs and take all the energy that they got from being there, and sharing the lessons. The woman who shared this really beautiful song is working to put together a curriculum to go to other states that are fighting and resisting pipelines, and so she's putting together this curriculum and wants to be able to travel and go to schools and talk about what happened there, and talk about indigenous rights to the land and the fight that is happening to keep our water clean, because without clean water, we're all going to die. So that was lovely. I had to say goodbye to the grandmothers, who I'm going to miss a lot, but I will hopefully see them next year. Friday, like I said, I checked out the St. Patrick's Day parade. It was a parade. It was great. A lot of folks having fun all day long. And then I went to the Open Technology Circle, which was nice. There was not very many people, probably like 15 or 20. So it was a nice quiet event. It was nice to get out of the hectic streets of New York and kind of relax and chat. It turned into more of a sharing circle, and decompression event, which is kind of what everybody needed at that point. So that was lovely, and I will post a video. There's a YouTube video on what open technology circle process organizing looks like, and I will share that. And then Saturday I went to Compassionate Listening Circle. That was good too. Again, yeah, it was good. So I'm gonna wrap up because this is almost 15 minutes long. I hope everybody is doing well. I am off today to help somebody move boxes, so I can earn some rent money for when I return home, because I'm missing 2 weeks of work to be here. And then this evening I'm going to a wrap-up event for the regional caucus. So North America and Europe are going to be kind of letting us in on what has been going on. It's notoriously hard to find information about the daily changes that are happening in these outcome documents. And at first I thought it was me being unable to find things, but I've had some discussions with other folks who've been coming to these things for years, and they also have a really hard time finding information out. So hopefully a lot of my questions will be answered, and I will let everybody know what's up with that as soon as I know. Cool. Bye.